Today we'll be breaking into the wall of worry, as Tom Lee says. You guys don't want to miss it. Let's get right into it. I want to open up with the clip where Tom Lee is going into his anticipation toward the year end. Take a look.
I guess sentiment is not positive, is it? You mentioned the wall of worry.
Average sentiment this year is still minus 11.5, like net solidly bearish. That's only happened 3 other times in 35 years, all in the middle of bear markets. So investors feel like it's a bear market, but we're up 17%, which kind of tells me I think there's a big performance chase into year end. You know, over 80% of fund managers are missing their benchmark this year.
Wow.
Because we've got the shutdown, we've got China, we got the Fed speak, but the market's been up 6 months in a row now. Only 6 times since 1928 that's happened. If you look at November, we're up 5 or 6 times. And in 1942, it was flat. So basically, November should be really strong. I think at least 200 points on the S&P.
For November?
Yeah, maybe even 250. So maybe we get to 71.
See, that's a call that I just wish you wouldn't make a call like that, right?
You gotta love Tom. He's absolutely a perma bear, but he does make some interesting points here. Fund managers down, 8% of fund managers down right now, so they're going to have to perform. He also hits on the fact that he's acquiring more Ethereum. So he is doubling down as he continues to boost his ETH holdings over on Bitmine. What does he know? Because he's looking at the narrative. I get the narrative in the sense that investors feel like it's a bear market, but yet at the same time, we're at all-time highs on the S&P. And Bitcoin is holding right now, at least as we speak, around 107. Whether or not it can hold that 100K is the big question. Other things, of course, that we're breaking, of course, is MicroStrategy came in and purchased another 397 Bitcoin. This is between the 27th and November 2nd yesterday, so an average of about 114K. A little bit high for that, but around 45 million. And also not a big buy for MicroStrategy. So they seem to be timing their purchasing down as well as Tom Lee timing his purchasing down. If you look at the amount of ETH as it starts to come down. Now, is he waiting for a big market correction on Ethereum? Could we see this push into around 2,700? And then that would be when Bitmine is looking for this bounce coming into an all-time high for Ethereum. Additionally, the NASDAQ 100 and also the Russell 2000 have seen an average right now of gains of around 2.5 and 2.6. This is during this period. So if you look at November, it does show through that this could happen. And could the S&P 500 see 7,000 this month? If you look at history, this does flow into his thesis around how the market should perform. I want to go to one more clip by him because this is where he gets into his prediction on Ethereum by year end. Take a look.
I want you to quit while you're ahead, but I have to ask you about Bitcoin. I mean, you want to go out on a limb there, go below 100 or no?
I mean, if I look at everything since October 10th, because that was the biggest liquidation in the history of crypto, like bigger than FTX.
Like a margin call almost.
Almost a miniature rupture, like a tsunami. We're only a couple weeks from that, so I think the market is consolidating. But if I look at fundamentals, like Ethereum, stablecoin volumes have been exploding, application revenues at all-time highs. So right now, fundamentals are leading price in crypto. So I think eventually we consolidate and then we rally into year end.
Is there 150?
Yeah, I think we could still get to 150, 200 for Bitcoin, and then something like 7,000 for Ethereum.
Definitely still very bullish for year end. I just want you guys to think about this. We are less than 60 days. And you remember, you have 2 major holidays during that 60 days to be able to attack the markets. Granted, yes, crypto moves 24/7, doesn't sleep. I get it. I don't know that we hit a 7K. If we do, if we hit a 7K, Tom Lee will be one of the greatest investors that has ever performed on Wall Street. Because if you look at Polymarket right now, that chance of an all-time high, just an all-time high by December 31st, which I am somewhat bullish on, of going to an all-time high on Ethereum. Bitcoin, maybe it gets back to its 126. According to some of the cycle analysts that are out there, we are way past the high on where the market could be going. So could be a big, interesting fall as we start to go toward holiday season. Let's not forget, though, that Tom Lee right now is the leader of the pack when it comes to analysts. And this is comparing Michael Saylor, Cathie Wood, and he's greater in the sense of searches than all of them put together. So the reality is people are listening to Tom Lee right now. And if you get people listening, including fund managers, and a lot of the markets, including FOMO markets, yes, you could lead that through just by absolutely doing exactly what Tom Lee is doing, and that is forcing it, willing it into reality going forward. Now, we put out this video right here last Friday, and it's the bull market catalyst. Don't miss these catalysts. There was a line of about a dozen catalysts that needed to happen for possibly a market correction. Go back and watch the video, but there are some of them that are starting to click through and actually maybe showing up. One of them, though, that's not, is the fact that we have gone into potentially a Bitcoin season again. That's how low sentiment is right now when you look at the current altcoin season index holding at a 27. So we are out of altcoin season. And according to some analysts, altcoin season may not even happen. That's the kind of scenario that this plays into. Now, does it push into 2026 like what Paul from DataDash is kind of thinking, an elongated cycle? These cycles are very interesting at this point because they do go back all the way into the 1940s, and that's what many of these scientists have been looking at if you look at these cycles. Crypto fear and greed, another cycle. This, of course, starting to show up. And remember, look at these big yellow zones and then these massive red markets. This is March of 2025 right there. Here's our pump into May. Here's a nice little move in July. And then, of course, here we've had this kind of. So are we due for a major green candle as we start to bust in to the fall? You can kind of see it right here. This is really the last time we started to see a little bit of consistency back in October around 113, 114. So let me know in the comments if you think Bitcoin is going to hit its all-time high in 2025, or do you think this rolls over? And if it does, we've just shattered the 4-year cycle if we get another high outside of the fourth quarter. Other things that play into this is cycles around where we're going to see moves on the market. And typically in the past, we've seen the China ban. We saw a 5x increase right here around COVID. All of these dips in the market, these are the kind of opportunities that these represent. Now, are we at that state right now? I don't think we're in the dip, but we definitely are on a downtrend in the market. Does it mean it is the end of the bull cycle? Is the real question that everybody is asking, because a lot of people have been holding bags for a long time and they don't want to get caught in a 2021. That's the one thing that I'm a little bit concerned with, is a 2021 repeat where a lot of people miss that top and assume we're going to see a 100K Bitcoin at that time. And this time it would be an all-time high Bitcoin at around 126. One other catalyst that we hit on right here was the government shutdown. This, I think, would be a major catalyst. It does not look good right now. So there's no real hope in sight. At least we kind of had a little bit of hope from Tom Emmer last week where he thought Tuesday would be the day. It's just not going to happen, guys. And I think this is going to be a pending issue all the way into the holiday. If this goes back into late into December, that is a major problem because most of these guys won't even be there for these votes. I want to go to another clip because this was Trump on 60 Minutes talking about fixing healthcare. Take a look.
3/4 of these people will see their healthcare premiums double. Even here in Florida has the highest number of residents on Obamacare in the country.
And I'm saying we can fix it, Nora. They're going to get a very big increase this year.
Well, they're going to get an increase if you don't extend the subsidies.
No. What I'm saying is we can make it much less expensive for people and give them much better health care.
But where is
and
that
I'd
plan?
be willing to
But
work
where's
with
that
the Democrats. We can make it good.
I don't want to get into too much of a back and forth
But here's all
on
they
this.
have to do.
Yeah.
Open up the country. Open up the country.
It sounds like this is not going to get
This guy
solved.
is a kamikaze, but the people don't want that.
I hear you.
So
It
we have
sounds
a
like-
record-setting country right now.
It sounds like this is not going to get solved.
It's going to get solved, yeah. Oh, it's going to get solved.
How?
We'll get it solved.
All right, so Trump is talking about, and Mike Johnson mentioned this last week. We have played a clip on this, and that is that the Republicans apparently have a plan in lock, ready to go into position for healthcare. If that is the case, and if Trump has kind of doubled down on this, they need to turn around on this. But again, it all depends on the Democrats to get the country back open. If they come to the table and we do get it happening, then it will all be on eyes on the Republicans to get this health care in a position where it does do exactly what Trump just said, and that is reducing cost. That would be another major catalyst. Trump's administration has to continue the food aid during the shutdown. This, of course, is coming from the U.S. judges, so the likelihood kind of limping along for SNAP benefits, not getting axed during these periods of time. So I think that is at least somewhat of a positive nature. We also mentioned that. Other things, if you look at a Fed decision in December, this is the other thing that has been an issue that we've talked about before after the FOMC meeting where Chair Powell was a bit hawkish. And of course, now we're still holding at about a 67%. Let me kind of zoom in on that for you. About a 67% on a quarter basis points in December, but rising right now is the no change, and it's holding that position at around 31%. So that will be a factor going forward. Now, there's many people out there that don't like the idea of a rate cut after 2 consecutive rate cuts. So a pause might be in order to try to extend this bull run. Many people think that the S&P is still tied to that. A rate cut simply means the market might be in trouble. Do they see something coming? Are job numbers coming even worse in terms of a factor? Because remember, the Fed is without data right now and trying to make these decisions. Kobayashi came into this and talking about what we're seeing in money market funds. Investors have poured $4.5 trillion into cash funds. You can kind of see this flowing right there. This is the escalation that I think Tom Lee is talking about, is that people are sitting on the sidelines, but yet at the same time, we're seeing institutions push the S&P to all-time high. So if we get any kind of window here and continued rate cuts, then the likelihood of that cash coming off the sidelines into risk and also into traditional assets is huge going forward. Other ways that you might be able to make a little bit in terms of how you're playing this market. iTrust Capital announced that they were doing their Coinbase program, which is introducing Coinbase US Bitcoin Yield Fund. And this is in an IRA. So pretty big deal for expanding yields on Coinbase, or excuse me, pretty big deal on expanding yields on Bitcoin. And it's kind of a game changer because this is a first of its kind integration expanding to institutional grade crypto for retirement investors. So again, this goes inside a retirement account. If you haven't started a retirement account yet and using something like an iTrust, make sure and use the link down below. It will get you into iTrust Capital. We always leave that there so you guys can also get a funding reward. So check it out. Now, other things that are happening in the market is Buffett. Now, Buffett has been doing this for a while. This is the 12th consecutive quarter that he has been selling. Now, he has been selling into a rising S&P number. So many analysts would say he's left a lot of money on the table. But if you don't look at the S&P 500 in the lens of the Mag 7, many of these stocks are down, especially if you look at the Russell 2000. But if you look at the Mag 7, then he's left a lot of money on the table. But he's moving into his 12th consecutive quarter. Could we be at a position now where Berkshire Hathaway finally is in a position to where they're going to buy? And that means possibly the end of this market, or at least a possible dump into the market where it opens up an opening for Berkshire Hathaway. Other things you got to look at right here is the Federal Reserve just pumped almost $30 billion into U.S. banking system. This came through their overnight repos. This amount far surpasses even the peak of the dot-com bubble. So what is happening in the banks that would require $30 billion into the system on the repos? This is concerning because does it mean that we could see a liquidity event coming at the banks that maybe is looming? And that could happen also with a possible retracement of the S&P 500. So all of these things factoring into where I think we've seen this sideways action on the market, especially in risk assets. Other things that are being decided right now is you have Trump's legal woes, and this, of course, coming into the Supreme Court, trying to decide if his presidential powers over trade are going to continue. And this happens on Wednesday. So this would be another factor, another catalyst. If we actually get an award either way, it might end up working both to our benefits. Here's another thing that is a little alarming, could be a bear market indicator. This, of course, is talking about stolen funds from the balancer exploit, now have surged to 116 million. One thing that could be brewing is a small contagion as we start to see chains being halted. You also see a depeg right here of Stream DeFi. This is another stable coin out there, XUSD. Those are, in some cases, they probably wouldn't make any kind of issue in terms of the market. But right now, just not a good sign going forward right now as we look to where we're going. Now, good signs that we could see is the fact that Ripple has made a move, and they launched a digital asset spot prime brokerage for the U.S. They're going head to head now, I think, in the case of Coinbase. Maybe open up some liquidity and also some potential asset opportunities for Ripple Prime as we start to see a lot of announcements coming out of Swell, which opens up tomorrow on November 4th in New York. They'll be doing 2 days, which is the 4th and the 5th, and it is a who's who of the banking industry, including BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Citibank, you name it, and including the White House, which hasn't been there since 2018. So there's a lot of good news potentially coming out of New York with Ripple. So XRP might see a little bit of a boom coming in. This, of course, was Animoca, which their reverse merger with this fintech company called Currency Group, this ended up getting paused because of the volatility on trade lines. So that is an indicator, again, where we're starting to see very unique things happening with some of the key players in the space, and Animoca being one of them. The world's biggest economies are going head-to-head in terms of Bitcoin arms race, and that is the United States and China, right now holding the most in the way of Bitcoin. And I think this goes into a point that we've made here on this show, is there seems to be building a bipolar global reserve currency strategy. One is going the route of stablecoins and Bitcoin, which is the United States. One going the route of Bitcoin and gold, which is China. So which one is going to win? The key here will be right now, you look at the United States, which has access to so many countries, now being able to export the dollar via a stablecoin. They might be at the right place at the right time. If Trump can get things off high center in New York. I want to go to one more clip here because this puts Trump's position, which is all about crypto and how important it is, even compared to AI. Take a look.
I only care about one thing. Will we be number one in crypto? Crypto has turned out, and in that sense, I've been right. Crypto's turned out to be a massive industry. And I'm very proud to say that we are far and away ahead of China and everybody else. Now, China's getting into it very big right now. Tremendous number of jobs. I campaigned positively on crypto, very openly. I campaigned. Biden went all in on crypto at the very end because he thought he could get some votes. It didn't work. They voted for me. Because in crypto, it's a kind of an industry where basically you're going to have number one and you're not going to have a number two. And right now we're number one by a long shot. I want to keep it that way. The same way we're number one with AI, we're number one with crypto. And I want to keep it that way.
Now, if you look at the United States head-to-head with Bitcoin, but when it comes to Ethereum, not necessarily the case. The United States right now is considered the largest hold of ETH by investors overall, with around 30% of global Ethereum held by U.S. investors. This is major because it means companies and government is holding Ethereum. And even if you look at Trump's World Liberty Fi wallets, what they're holding, it's not even close. 6 billion in Ethereum ecosystem, all under World Liberty Fi. So Trump understands this is one of the key technologies, especially in crypto, that is going to make a game-changing opportunity. And he understands also the tokenization side of this and where it could be going. Now, crypto chatter is speeding up in Congress, especially leading into possibly getting this bill across the line. And if we get the Clarity Act across before Thanksgiving, this will be another catalyst that I think will be signifying a potential run into the end of the year. Now, granted, Boozman says they're teasing it, so it's a possibility that we get a committee vote on their portion. So it doesn't mean the bill would pass possibly by Thanksgiving, but it could give us an indicator and possibly a short-term pump. You know how those things work. One other point I want to hit on right here is Solana is now below its 1010 wick. This was when we saw the liquidity event. This is the lowest it's been in quite some time. Let me know how you guys are playing Solana. I know there's a lot of Solana watchers out there in the audience, so drop some comments down below. And by the way, if you're not subscribed to the show, make sure and do that. We always love to get you guys in. And of course, one of the things that we do is our live streams around the FOMCs and others, especially when there's urgent market news. So hit the bell. It does get you a notification when we do that. Checking out on where the market is right now, there, of course, is Bitcoin trading at 106.9 as we're recording on this. Still on a red day and pushing hard back into possibly that 100,000 zone, which is what we've been looking at. Not holding up sentiment-wise when you look at the metrics overall Bitcoin is getting a little bit soft right here in terms of sentiment. And if we take a look at, let's go over and take a look at Solana real quick, because I want to show this one right here. This might be the point where Solana does get a reversal of 167. But if not, then we've got a potential push all the way down to around 127, which is the mark that could be happening. Again, this all plays into the top tier assets in crypto, which is Bitcoin, obviously Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. Those are the ones we're watching very closely. You guys make sure and subscribe, and of course, get into the Diamond Circle. It is our own group that will help you navigate these times. It's absolutely free. Hit the link down below. Follow me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.